Hi there, I'm Robert Earl. This is a little unique video. It's one I'm not going to do very often, but we're going to cover two of my channels with one video. I'm uploading the same thing to two channels, so let me say it this way. I'm Robert Earl. Welcome to the Eco Ranch out here in far west Texas. And hi, I'm Robert Earl. I'm your desert chef. Welcome to my kitchen. So, let me tell you what we're going to do today. First of all, I'm a little bit disappointed because I tried to do a video yesterday and a couple of times I didn't hit the record button and I lost the most important parts of the video. So in this video, I'm going to splice yesterday's video. It may lack continuity, but there's information in there I want you to have. We're doing in this video today, which may stretch into some length, I am grinding meat. I'll show you how I use a meat grinder. So I'm grinding meat to make sausage with. I'll be mixing the spices to make 3 different kinds of sausage. We'll be stuffing the sausage in casings and wrapping them. I also have made some pork bone soup. I'm going to strain out the pork bone soup. Over here on the stove, I have my 100-year-old soup that's bubbling away. I'll get into why that's bubbling. I've got this giant pot here bubbling because in addition to stuffing sausage, we have about 30 pounds of assorted pork pieces, including a lovely ham that we're going to be curing. So I'm going to be putting my cure mix in here. I'm going to give you all those recipes as I go, so grab a pen and or a pen and paper so you can write them down, because I'm not putting them, I'm not going to spend an hour sitting there putting them all, cutting them all in here. And I'm going to get going. I'm going to divide up my spices and you know, let's do a whole bunch of different kinds of cooking here. There were 2 things I wanted to say. One thing is directed for the people that are watching Desert Chef. There are 2 ways that you really use spices. One way to use spices is to gently enhance the flavor of something. In other words, you're not overwhelming it, you're not using a lot. And a good example of that would be taking a high-quality piece of meat, whether it be steak or pork, and putting a little salt and pepper on it and cooking it. Now you taste the pork, you've got it gently enhanced, it's wonderful. You do that with a lot of things. For example, you can lightly enhance cooked vegetables with salt. See, salt doesn't have to go on everything, you are enhancing it and it's a spice. Or you can put a little bit of grated cheese, which isn't really a spice, but a little bit of grated cheese on spaghetti sauce. Changes the flavor a little bit. Or you can add a whole bunch of spice, glom it on there, and really change the character of something. And another good example of that is take that same steak, now douse the snot out of it with barbecue sauce. It doesn't matter what quality that steak is, it all tastes the same because you've killed it with spice. Overkill. One other way you can use spices, and that's to build a complexity of flavor that is another layer on your foods. What we're going to do with my sausages today and with my brine mixture is I'm using a lot of spices and I'm building a complexity. I'm not overwhelming the meats at all. The flavors should come right through, but I'm building a complexity. Learning how to build that complexity is something that just takes years and years. And I'll tell you, it doesn't come by dumping it on there. Now the other thing, again towards the folks that are trying to live sustainably, and I'm going to talk about this quite a bit in the video too. We're going to talk about why and how and the advantage of taking your own livestock and slaughtering your own livestock and doing what I've done here, which is I've actually spent 2 days, maybe 3 days total, doing this. Now that would be a long weekend if you have to go to work. You know, if you work a regular job, that would be a long weekend for you. But this is something you have to do, because if the world comes to an end and we're all out there, and I'm hoping that most of you are not crazy white people that want to shoot guns, because this is the wrong show to watch. There used to be one on National Geographic for that. But if you're truly interested in, first of all, being able to sustain yourself if something catastrophic happens, second of all, saving money, then you need to learn, you need to reconnect with where your food comes from, and you need to learn how to break down your foods so you know exactly what's in there, how it's been handled, and how long it's been handled. and it'll give you greater appreciation. We'll get into that in a bit. Right now I'm going to divide up my spices, get my recipes ready, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Mr. Rooster. Well, I am ready to start the cure. Now, we're going to be curing about 30 pounds of assorted meats in here today, so I'm making 3 gallons of cure. So this is for 3 gallons of cure. If you were to try to duplicate this at home, which I encourage you to do, and you can start with a fresh pork picnic or any piece of pork that's on sale and do that. If you're lucky enough to find pork bellies, start with a pork belly. And that's going to be slightly different. But let me show you what we have here and explain why we're going to do this in the order we are. 3 gallons of water, nearly at a boil. Now, we're doing a honey curing. I happen to love honey cured stuff. And so we're going to do a honey curing. You can use any honey that you like. And if you don't know whether you like a honey or not, and all you do is buy the honey in that little fat bear in the grocery store, look into your honeys. Apple blossom honey. If you're lucky enough to live in the Southwest, there are different kinds of honey, sage honeys and that. I found that the honey that we love best in the world comes from South Georgia, and it's gallberry honey. And I get this, and I'm going to give this guy a plug because there's not that many people that watch my videos. It's from Bruce's Nut and Honey in South Georgia. I forget the little town now that he's in. And I buy it by the 1 gallon jug. Now we're adding the honey first for one reason, because, there it goes, we're going to add the honey first because there's no spices in the mix yet, and in order to get all the honey out, would you get in there and scrape it? Sure you would. Or you can just pick up some of that water and let it dissolve the honey. You probably still have to scrape it, but we're going to dissolve as much of that honey as we can right now. In fact, I am going to get a spoon in there. There we go.
Homerville.
You know, I just remembered, well, Debbie just remembered that Bruce's Nut and Honey is in Homerville, Georgia. And you wouldn't believe the flowers all through that area, and that gallberry honey is marvelous. And again, buying in bulk like that, you find that you're still paying a lot of money, but you're paying about 1/5, and I'm not kidding you, about 1/5 what you would pay in the grocery store. There, nice and clean, no hint of any spice in there in case I want to reuse it. Now, let me pick this up and give you what the rest of the ingredients that I did are. I don't run from a written recipe often, but when you're doing something like this, you want to be sure you know. So, we put 2 cups of honey in. We have 2 cups of salt. Now there's questions about whether you want to use iodized or uniodized salt. I just looked it up and went to 5 different web pages. Iodized salt doesn't dissolve as fast as non-iodized. That's all. I happened to have screwed up yesterday and bought iodized salt, so we're using iodized salt. So, 2 cups of salt, 2 cups of honey, 10 crushed bay leaves. They add a nice unique flavor. We crushed them up because it's all getting rinsed off the meat anyway, so it won't be stuck in there. Now, in this little mix here, I have an ingredient I didn't write down, so be sure and write this down. I have 2 tablespoons of cloves and 10 cardamom pods. Right in there. Again, they're all getting strained out, so you don't worry about them. Don't forget the cloves. They're more important than the cardamom. You can leave out the cardamom. I'm just putting it in for, like I said, that little bit of complexity. There were also in that I dumped in 4 star anise. Now you don't have to use the star anise either. I put it in because I've worked with star anise in the past, and I know that that tiny hint of licorice will be in the background there. So now I have sugar, which is 2 cups of sugar. That's important. Get that sugar in there. Now this is the most important thing when you're curing. This is curing salt. Prague salt, pink salt, curing salt. I've seen some references to number 1 and number 2. Is this number 1 or number 2? The answer is yes, it's one of them. There we go. Curing salt. Now, when this cure is done and ready, and I go to do my pork bellies, and I believe I think just the pork bellies and the pork jowls, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons, I'm going to divide this up between the bellies that I have, 4 tablespoons of green peppercorns. Remember in my earlier video, if you're a Desert Chef follower, my earlier video I had said that the 4 different kinds of peppers had different flavors and imparted different things. You may use white. I wouldn't. White's a little more intense and generally something you want if you're having like a chicken or a clear sauce. You would use the white peppers. Definitely don't use red in this recipe. Black or green. Now I'm out of black and I have a lot of green that I haven't used simply because it's always been in the back of the cabinet. So I'm putting 4 tablespoons of green pepper in the pork bellies when I put them in the cure bags. Not now, because then the whole thing will be flavored like pepper. I don't believe I want that in my ham and my loin. There we go. This gets stirred up. And you want to bring it close to a boil. You don't want to really boil it. You want to bring it close to a boil. And then it's got to cool down to 40 degrees. No more than 40 degrees, or it does something to the reaction, and I'm not sure what exactly it'll do to the reaction. So you do not want it to be hot. You want it to be 40 degrees. It's going right in the refrigerator. And I'm going to make room in the refrigerator in a few minutes for the ground pork to come out. I've got about 35 pounds of ground pork in there and about 15 more to grind. So that's going to come out. This is going in. When it hits 40 degrees, we're going to get everything in the cure bags. And I'm going to set up for the sausage making, and that'll be... Okay, behind me on the stove, I've got the 2 pots here. This is my cure, still getting it close to the boiling point. But, again, if you follow Desert Chef, I mentioned in Desert Chef about the 100-year-old soup. So the 100-year-old soup is over here cooking. And why is it cooking? Here's something that you all should know about making soup. Now, I know I'm off camera. I made last night out of the bones from the trim of the prime cuts, because you always have some loss with prime cuts. So I had bones in there, not many, and I made pork bone soup. Now this is a pure good pork bone soup here, but I got pork bones in it. Something I learned a long time ago. You make your soup, you get your soup the way you want it, the broth just right, strain it, you've got bones in there again. Well, make some more soup. Put some water in a pot, put these bones in another pot. It's going to be a different flavor soup, but go ahead and do it. In my case, I've got my old buddy here, 100-year-old soup, that is completely full of soup. Now, it's completely full because when I finished the pork bone soup yesterday, which was perfect, I just took everything out and put it in the 100-year-old soup, which is exactly what I'm doing with this batch here. I'm taking just the big bones out because this is chilled. In fact, it has to be reheated because it's chilled and too much is sticking to it. And you may have noticed, if you didn't, let me show you. This soup is very gelatin-like. Of course, that's the collagen that comes out of the marrow and out of the fat. And that is what makes the soup delicious. You do not want to steer away from that. And if some anorexic clown in a Whole Foods market or whatever is telling you, oh no, you want to strain all that out, you do not want to strain this stuff out. That's what makes soups good. So I took my bones out, last piece. Now I'll strain this soup out and put it up. This will be the prime pork bone soup. This is a 100-year-old soup. This has got vegetables in it. It's got a couple of chicken carcasses and all those bones. Now, when this finishes cooking, I'm going to strain it and take 3/4 of it out. I'm going to leave 1/4 of the soup in. That's the 100-year-old soup, and we're into the cold season, and Debbie and I do enjoy our soups. So I just thought I would hit on that. That's for the Desert Chef people, and we'll get into the grinding next. Hey, okay guys, show of hands. Who knows how to use a meat grinder? Okay, you two can turn the thing off. The rest of you, let's learn how to use a meat grinder. Now, this is an old meat grinder that I bought. I don't even think you can find it anymore. Any meat grinder is good. You can even use a hand one. The hand ones are relatively easy to turn. I do so much meat when I do meat that I have an electric one. Now, they usually come with 3 blades, a fine, a coarse, or a chili grind, and a medium. Well, just like yesterday when I was trying to do, or Wednesday when I was trying to do my hogs, the gremlins came and stole my sharpening knives, so I had to skin the hogs with what to me were dull knives. The same damn gremlins got in and stole my fine and coarse grinder plate. But it does leave me with a medium, and I always grind everything medium anyway. So we're going to grind this meat up. So you set it up for medium grind. Everything should be chilled. Now, it's 64 degrees right now out here. That's not really as cold as you want, but I just pulled this out of the refrigerator, and it's around 38 degrees right now, so these are cold enough. This, by the way, is the trimmings from the prime cuts, and I'm going to go over this because I haven't done it before. When you slaughter an animal, livestock, a mammal, you first thing you do is skin it and eviscerate it. Sometimes you're going to take the head off, sometimes not. In my case, I left the heads on because I removed just the jowl and cheek meat. I didn't use anything else from the head. Personally, I've got a thing against organ meats, so I just don't do it. So, when I say primal cuts, the head doesn't count as a primal cut, so you're not counting the head. But you have 3 cuts generally that you're going to make in a half of meat, a half of an animal, or 6 cuts in a whole animal. And it's kind of sort of, each one's a little different, but you go back 6 ribs from where the ribs begin and cut there. Then you go back to right where the ribs end, and like you want to put the last 4 or 5 ribs in the second cut. And those are your 2 cuts, and then your 3rd cut is removing the ham from that piece, whether it's a steer or a sheep, what we would call a ham on the pigs. You're going to remove that. That gives you your 3 primal cuts. Those are primal cuts. Once you get that done, you chill everything down. Then you go to what's called the prime cuts, and that's the old living high off the hog thing. Those are your prime cuts. High off the hog years ago just simply meant the cuts that were the highest up on the animal. In other words, not the belly, not the innards, not the shanks, the trotters, or the feet. It meant the loins, the chops, the tenderloins. That was living high off the hog. So your high cuts are your prime cuts. So I took the primal cuts and broke them down into prime cuts. Then I trimmed them for appearance. And this is what's left from trimming two whole hogs of primal cuts. Now I had already, well, that doesn't matter. This is what's left, and I'm going to guess that at 12 pounds. So we're going to grind that up. I'm going to show you how to use the grinder. It's going to be noisy, so I'm not going to be doing a lot of talking while I do this. But turn the grinder on, stuff the meat in. It's that simple. And then the meat comes out. You want to keep it cold. You want to grind it once, keep it cold. Even if you're going to stuff your sausages, you want to re-chill the meat, because this plate will heat the meat up. It's going to get hot in there turning. So let's get over here. It's still morning, so I've got my coffee cup. Put the coffee cup down. You're going to, and it helps to have a helper. In fact, another word for helper is children, so that's another way to get them involved. Turn off the smart-ass phones and get them involved. So, load up your hopper, plug in your machine, and start going. Now, mine comes with a smasher, but it's dirty right now. The whole kitchen's dirty from all this work. So I'm going to do without the smasher today, but the smasher just simply goes down in the hole and pushes the meat down. The meat will get grabbed and will get taken down anyway. So let's watch. There she comes. It's a miracle. Is that where ground meat came from? I thought it came wrapped in cellophane in the grocery store. this is ground pork that total cost in terms of hard cash that I put out, I got $1.13 a pound in this. Ground pork. Go price that in your store. Of course, I got the same $1.13 a pound in the pork tenderloins and in the hams and everything else. Now that's cut too big. You want your pieces to be about 1 inch. I'm going to try to jam it in anyway, but you really want your pieces about 1 inch. They can be long strips. And you do not want to trim the fat off because the fat is where your flavor is in the sausage and in ground pork, or ground beef for that matter. That's why so many restaurants, if you guys are like me and you watch things, some of the cooking shows on television or the travel shows where they do a lot of cooking, it's going to be, they're going to be talking about an 80-20 mix. So I'll come back. Well, we're winding down on all the work I've had to do. I'll tell you what, it's Saturday morning. Oh, it's about 11. God, it's about 11 o'clock. And I've been at this since Wednesday afternoon, actually. So here's where we are. I got 20 pounds of ground pork here. This is assorted ground pork, the stuff I ground up from the meat I set aside specifically for pork. This is a mix of a lot of fat and a lot of belly, pork belly. And when I trimmed my pork bellies and that, this is everything that came from the trimmings. Now, I'll give you the recipe in a second, but I wanted to tell you something about how Americans and Europeans differ. I'm going to turn this so I can be sure I'm in the screen here. Americans and Europeans differ a lot on making sausage, and it has to do with the fact that the Europeans didn't have to worry about colonizing, taming their country, their continent, because they tamed it, literally they tamed it 2,000 years ago when the Romans came into Gaul and what later became England. But here we had a country to tame, we had wild game, we had things we had to preserve, so we had a little different structure. So when I'm making sausage out there, there is somebody in your family that says, I don't need nobody to teach me how to make no damn sausage. I done been hunting my whole life. You just cut off that meat you don't want and make a sausage out of it. Well, and what you get is you get sausage that tastes like you took the meat that you don't want to cook for anything else and ground it up. The key to the good sausage is good meat. We're making kielbasa first, and this is prime meat for the kielbasa. Americans, because, and I'm not making fun, I am making fun, but I'm not really saying anything bad about us, but we just tend to make our sausage out of bits that we don't want, the fat and that, and that's fine. I also did that here. But then the quality of the meat isn't quite as good. And we tend to over-season a lot also. Where the Europeans, the sausage is as important to them as a filet mignon would be to you and I, and they take great pride in it. So I've taken a lot of effort in learning how the Europeans make their sausages. In particular, I've spent I've been married 37 years next month, and being that Debbie is half Polish, I've taken a lot of time and great care and really great pride in learning several Polish recipes, and one of them is the Polish kielbasa. So we're going to make that first. We're going to mix it up. I'm not going to force you to watch it, but I am going to give you the recipe, and this is for 20 pounds of Polish kielbasa. So we're going to make 20 pounds of it, and if you're going to make 5 pounds or 2 pounds, then you adjust this. So here's where we are. 5 tablespoons of marjoram. Marjoram is your key ingredient. I'm going to use that word key a lot for those folks that are with the Desert Chef. A key ingredient, marjoram. 5 tablespoons marjoram. 4 tablespoons salt. If you're on a salt-restricted diet, of course, you can cut that out. It will affect the flavor, absolutely. 4 tablespoons salt. 2 teaspoons of crushed black peppercorns. Key ingredient. Half a cup of chopped garlic. Without that, you don't have kielbasa, period. That's the key ingredient. Half a cup of chopped garlic. a half a cup of yellow mustard seed. In an authentic Polska kielbasa, mustard seed is critical. You don't have it, it's not authentic. It may be a kielbasa, but it's not Polish kielbasa or Polska kielbasa. Then you have to add water to it. Well, why add water when you can add good old beer? So we're going to put a can of beer in here as well. Mix that all up, and then I'll come back and we'll do the force meat on my really nice plexiglass. This has turned out to be wonderful. It's been a great cutting board, and we'll get it good and wet, and the sausage will slide into rings on it. Show you that in a few minutes. Let's get, Debbie and I are going to get this all mixed up. Hey, I'm back for a minute. I finished all the Polish kielbasa. We did a little over 20 pounds of Polish kielbasa. Now I'm switching over to Italian sausage, and I figured I needed to stop, give you the recipe for the Italian sausage, and also give you a little tip. If you're not a, if you haven't done this before and you want to, it's easy, it's simple. Don't even give it a second thought. But first, let me give you the recipe for the Italian sausage. This is for 15 pounds of sausage, so it's 15 pounds of ground pork. You can also add lamb, veal, or beef in there. It's going to, of course, affect the flavor. But here's what I put in. And this is for a mild Italian sausage. 1/3 cup fennel. I have 1 teaspoon of either red chili flakes or a red pepper that's not a cayenne but a hot red pepper, but it's only 1 teaspoon, so you won't notice it. 1/3 cup of marjoram, 1/4 cup ground oregano, 1½ teaspoons of thyme, 5 tablespoons of basil, 2 tablespoons of sweet paprika, 1/8 cup of salt, 2 tablespoons of crushed red peppercorns. You don't have red, go ahead and substitute black or white. 6 large cloves of garlic, chopped real fine, and 1 cup of a dry red wine. Chianti is great. I didn't feel like spending $15 a bottle for something I was going to pour in here, so I got a Merlot for this. But a cup of dry red wine, your choice, whichever you want. Just make sure that it's a dry. Now, we finished the Polish kielbasa. This area here, all the way, to here, was full of kielbasa meat. Now you can do one of 2 things. You can dig it all out, throw it away, cook it up for lunch, or just leave it there. Put your Italian sausage in and start forcing the meat through. Take that first link off. This link here, that's why I left it, it's half kielbasa and half Italian sausage, and that scraped all the kielbasa out. Now this is a mystery link, and in our case, Debbie and I are going to have the sausages for dinner tonight, so this will just be for our dinner. But that's one way to save and not even lose that little ½ cup of meat that would be in there. So I'm going to get this done. We'll move on to the breakfast sausage, and I'll show you. All right, well, I'm back, and we're having a sausage fest here, but this is the right kind of sausage fest, everybody. Debbie went to the trouble of labeling these for us. This is all the sausage meat we got today. It's now 3 in the afternoon, by the way. Breakfast sausage is this roll right here. These are all the one recipe for breakfast sausage. And this is the Italian sausage, just coiled here. The kielbasa runs from here all the way through here. There's a lot more kielbasa than there is breakfast sausage and, of course, and Italian sausage. But we wanted it that way because I'm going to also be smoking some of the Polish kielbasa. Now, I go off screen, I also did not give you the breakfast sausage recipe. Now, like I keep saying, these are key recipes. They're base recipes. My breakfast sausage recipe that I'm going to give you does not have sage in it. I didn't put any sage because I didn't have any here. And like I always say, it's a 135-mile round trip for us to go to the store. So what I did was I made do with what I had. Use this as a key recipe and then change your own. So here's a breakfast sausage for 8 pounds of breakfast sausage, which is about what we have here. 3 teaspoons grain of paradise. That's a spice, and if you get it, you'll use it. Grain of paradise finely crushed. 2 teaspoons of salt, tablespoons of salt. 1 teaspoon green or white peppercorns crushed. Now if you have a choice, I would go with the white peppercorns, I believe, and I probably should have, but I put green in these. 3 tablespoons of marjoram, 1 teaspoon of allspice, and 1.5 tablespoons of chopped garlic. That's the breakfast sausage recipe. Breakfast sausage, you would want to ordinarily put it in a smaller casing, a smaller diameter casing, which would be lower intestine. What I did was, since I don't have this, or the small intestine, yeah, that's the lower one. Since I didn't have those, I just made the links a little bit smaller, and we'll go from there. I mean, I'm not a butcher, and this isn't a charcuterie show. It's an idea of showing you what you can do with the with what you have. So, between these 3 sausages here, I kind of, around here we pay $6 or more a pound for Italian sausage, kielbasa, breakfast sausage. It's about $5 a pound most anywhere else. So you're probably looking at $250 worth of sausage right here if you bought it in the store. So that's just that. Now that doesn't include all the other cuts we have, nor the ground pork that I put up as just ground pork. So that gives you an idea. It was easy. Anybody can do it. You can do it. Now the next step we're going to do is I'm going to bring the brining mixture out, and we're going to set up the things that I'm going to smoke for brining. We do not brine or cure is the proper word, the Polish kielbasa. We simply smoke that for smoked kielbasa. This is fresh kielbasa, which you don't see in the store all that often. And I'm very, very proud of this recipe, so I wouldn't change a bit of it. Use it like this. Okay, next to the last segment here, we are ready to brine. I keep saying brine, and I don't mean brine. We're ready to put the cure on the meats that need cure. Now over here, I'm going to guess I got about 7 or 8 pounds of, let's make sure you can see it, 7 or 8 pounds of pork belly here. 1 jowl. The other 3 jowls I did something with, and I don't know what I did with them. But, so I have the pork bellies ready to go. Now here, which is incredibly heavy, I have a picnic. I think you can see this. I have a picnic. I'm waggling my thumb at the picnic. Up in the front corner, I'm waggling my thumb at that, is a ham. And I have 6 hocks. Now, no, I didn't have crippled pigs. 2 of the hocks, one of the hocks is on my picnic, and the other is on the ham I'm giving to the gentleman that loaned me the trailer. So I have 6 hocks. All these are getting cured and smoked later on, along with some of the smoked sausage. Now, speaking of the sausage, we had 67 packets, 67 1-pound packets, so we had 67 pounds of sausage. Now, you would pay, let's go with the minimum, $5 a pound, roughly. I mean, some people can get it for less, but you'll pay $5 a pound in the store. So that's $335 worth of sausage that we put up. Not to mention all of this stuff, not to mention all the prime cuts, including that $7 a pound tenderloin that we had quite a bit of. So let's get the brine on here, and then we'll do one more thing. After we brine it, we're going to get that cracked pepper in. Now, since some of the spices are floating on top, we'll do it this way, half and half. I only want the bellies just covered, because we really have to cover the ham and the picnic, and we are covering the ham and the picnic. There we go. Now, I did do one thing after I gave you guys the recipe that I was using. I added a cinnamon stick, just for that tiny bit of cinnamon flavor. Now, I've also taken and pierced the ham and the picnic in several places, because I want the cure to get all the way in there, and it takes a long time for a cure to go through something, especially the size of this ham. So I pierced it. But that's all we're going to do right there, except I am going to come in every couple of days, or every day I should say, and turn that ham. Stir it up and turn that ham. Debbie and I together are going to have to move that, because that's beyond me. Now, in the cure here, I keep looking to make sure you can see me. In this cure, where the pork bellies are, somewhere around here, there we go, I have my crushed, pretty much crushed, green peppers. Now again, the green peppers aren't going to be a part of the final product. They're more to add their own flavor. So the crushed green peppers, they get in the bellies. Now I didn't massage the heck out of these, but as I turn them, I will massage them. But the bellies here, we gonna give them a nice rub, as some of those old boys would say on their YouTube channels. Rub them up good, mix it up, make sure that that pepper gets in there nicely. Also going to make sure that I've got the meat sides down. It doesn't matter though, look at this belly here. That is a nice pork belly right there. That belly there, now that pepper's neatly distributed. This is all ready to go. Going in the refrigerator, today is Saturday, so I'm going to shoot for putting them in the smoker next Monday. That should give me 9 days.
A week from Monday.
Oh, yeah, Debbie just reminded me, a week from Monday. That'll give me 9 days. So 9 days in this, and I believe we're done talking about setting up the cure for our meats and setting up sausages. The prime cuts, I actually did a video, and something went wrong where I didn't turn the camera didn't turn on, so I had the prime cuts in the freezer and halfway frozen before I found out that the video didn't take. So you didn't get to see me do the prime cuts unless I'm able to retrieve them off of the memory. But I'll see on that. So for that, I guess we are done. I don't have a lid for this, so we're going to put, I believe, tin foil over this. We are done, and on behalf of Desert Chef, and I'm your Desert Chef, Robert Earl, on behalf of Desert Chef, this is Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West, Texas, telling you it's not that hard. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the hardest part of that journey is that single step. See you next time. Bye for now. What we have in front of me right now is Michigan ribs. Now I'm going to give you this, for my Desert Chef people, I'm going to give you this recipe real fast. So get ready to write it down, pause this, go get a pen and paper. Michigan ribs are really simple to make, and to me they're the best ribs in the world, but I grew up in Detroit, so Michigan ribs are going to be good for me. If you grew up in Sweden, you would say Swedish ribs were the best. Michigan ribs, you take your ribs, you cut them like that. I think you can see, there we go. You cut them down, not all the way, just cut them so that they'll cook in between. Take an onion, slice it up, put the rings on top, put them in a casserole dish like this. You want to put, for this much ribs, which is about 1.5 pounds, you want to put half cup, 3/4 cup of vinegar or vinegar water. In this case, I used vinegar water from some pickled jalapenos that I had done. And I just poured the water in there so they'll have some of the heat from that. Now I cut my fingernails today, so I can't even open a beer. I'm in tough shape. And I'm going to add some of this cheap beer to it. Just about that much, because I want to drink the rest. About 1/3 of a can. Now, here's a recipe for Michigan ribs. You do all that, you cover it. Put it in the oven at 375 for 45 minutes. Take it out. Take the ribs, save the onions, you can throw away the vinegar. You grill them real slow and low. You grill them on your barbecue or on your grill or in your oven. The key is 45, 45, 45, but I've found that you really can't grill them slow for 45 minutes, so 20, 25 minutes. You grill them on the barbecue or whatever. Take them out. Put them back in here, cover them with barbecue sauce, and in Michigan we used open pit barbecue sauce, just over-the-counter store-bought barbecue sauce. They don't sell open pit here, and I won't buy anything with high fructose corn syrup in it, so I forget what kind I've got. But put a bottle of that in there, cover it, put it back in the oven for another 45 minutes, and it's done, and you've got Michigan barbecue. It's just that simple. And I'll tell you what, there was an old black woman, this is going back 40 couple of years, but there was an old black woman that used to be right across from the Detroit police station, downtown Detroit, and I forget exactly where it is. It seems like it's on John R. and something.